After SpaceX launch, a fear of satellites that outnumber all visible stars. Last month, SpaceX successfully 6,500-pound satellites into space. Soon amateurs, the main issue is that those 60 satellites are merely a drop in the bucket. SpaceX while astronomers agree that global internet service is a worthy goal, the satellites are bright, too bright. This has the potential to change what a natural sky looks like, said Tyler Nordgren, an astronomer who is now working full-time to promote night skies. And SpaceX is not alone. Other companies, while private companies see major business opportunities in low Earth orbit and beyond, many skygazers fear that space will no longer be the province of all mankind, as stated in the Outer Space Treaty of 1967. The Starlink launch was one of SpaceX's most ambitious missions to orbit. Each of the satellites carries a solar panel that not only gathers sunlight but also reflects it back to Earth. Elon Musk, but the early images led many scientists to question his assertions. The first captured images, for example, revealed a train of spacecraft, the North Star. And while a press-off, the satellites can even briefly boosting their brightness to rival that of Sirius, the brightest star in the sky, when their solar panels are oriented just right. Astronomers fear that these reflections will threaten stargazing and their research. Whenever a satellite passes through a long exposure picture of the sky, it causes typically ruining the image and forcing astronomers to take another one. While one estimate suggests that the Large Synoptic Survey Telescope, an 8.4-meter telescope under construction on a Chilean mountaintop that will soon scan the entire sky, you might have to deal with during the first few hours of twilight. And astronomers don't yet know how they will adjust. We're really at that. Not only do these satellites reflect light, they also emit radio frequencies, which a number of astronomers find troubling. Dishes used in Moreover, some are worried that Starlink plans to operate on two frequency ranges that astronomers use to map the gas throughout the universe, allowing them to see how planets as large as Jupiter assemble, and how galaxies formed immediately after the Big Bang. If those frequency channels become inaccessible, it's extremely limiting to what we can learn about the early universe, said Caitlin Casey, an astronomer at the University of Texas at Austin. Similar concerns emerged in the 1990s, which made to provide global satellite phone coverage. The Iridium the National Radio Astronomy Observatory, a federally funded research center that operates facilities across the world, said on Friday that it has been working directly with SpaceX to minimize potential impacts. The group is discussed. Dr. Casey worries that this could still restrict where radio astronomers can work. This week on Twitter, Mr. Musk that Starlink will avoid using one of those two frequency ranges. But Dr. Casey, despite the outcry, Dr. Drimmel said he wasn't calling for Starlink to be brought to a halt. I don't presume that astronomy should be held more important than everything else, he said. So there may be some, but he does worry about the irrevocable impact on human culture should internet satellites forever alter the face of the night sky. What I find astounding is that whatever we do will affect everyone on the planet, Dr. Drimmel said. Alex Parker, a planetary astronomer at the Southwest Research Institute, noted on Twitter that if these satellites orbit in the thousands, they could zoom to the naked eye. And even if it sounds dystopian, Dr. Casey said. Most of the frustration stems from the fact that discussions about the impact of this project did not take place before launch. And it may only be, it truly is the tip of the iceberg, especially as we get into a world where you have multi-billionaires with the ability and the desire to do things like this, Dr. Nordgren said. So astronomers are hopeful that today's conversation might shape the future. I think it's good that already, Mr. Musk has to work on lowering future satellites' brightness. And other companies seem to be taking note. A press officer, another entrant, Telesat, said said its smaller constellation would operate at higher orbits than some companies' satellites, making their satellites fainter. Mr. Musk also upset some astronomers when he said on Twitter that Starlink was for they. Who has the right to decide that? Dr. Nordgren, the night sky has the power to make people feel awe, he said. A star-filled night sky reminds us that we are part of a much larger whole, that we are one person in a world of people surrounded by the vast depths of the visible universe, Dr. Nordgren said. While they may see Starlink's goal as worthy, scientists question whether it is truly the greater good. I am sure there will be positive impact in terms of bringing the internet to the world, but just blatantly saying as one person or one company that this takes precedence over our knowledge of our own universe is scary, Dr. Casey said. Ultimately, many agree that the risks are far too great for this decision to be made by one company. And Dr. Case, the idea that one or two people somewhere in some country in some boardroom can make the decision that the constellations hereafter will suddenly be fluid, and move from night to night and hour to hour, I don't think that's their decision to make, Dr. Nordgren said.
Raindrop, drop top smoking, no cooking the hot pot. Fucking on your bitch, yeah, that. Looking up, open the park pot.